It is the Martha Zoller Show, and it is a fantastic day. Thanks you so much for being here with us today. And you know, we have a saying on the Martha Zoller Show, around the corner, around the world. And so we're going to be around the corner for this first segment. Jody White is joining us. She called in last week to talk to us about a subdivision in East Hall. And since then, a lot of things have happened related to building in North Hall and in Hall County. So I wanted to have her come back in again. Jody, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So just give us a little update since last week from your perspective about, the project you're working on related to the subdivision in East Hall and informing people about that and possibly stopping it, but also what the county has done.
Okay. What I have done personally for the subdivision itself is, I've started a petition. I've walked around. I've talked to different neighbors. I've talked to a lot of our commissioners about the project. This project currently on Cagle Mill Road, and we also have another one on 5401 Old Winder Highway, are the only two projects that are not covered by this hold in the applications because they had been heard by planning.
Right.
And I just would like to, like I had stated, I've started a group online, and I have a website. It's called Hall Informed, and it's just bringing our community together so we can support each side of the county. I don't just support my backyard. I went over and I've talked to some people at Old Winder Highway. I have sat with people in commissioners meetings for multiple different things. Our group, Hall Informed, it's myself and another group of ladies. We have spent, they have spent a little over a year, and I spent probably the last 6 months. We go to every Hall County board meeting. And when I say every Hall County board meeting, we go from tax assessors meetings to election board meetings to planning meetings to schools, commissioners. We cover them all. If they are not recorded by the county, I record them myself and I throw them on my website, hallinformed.org. I give highlights of them for the people that can't watch those videos. Sometimes they're 2 hours long. So I just want to get the message out there that we do have a group that is non-biased. We're not just in our own backyard. We are all over Hall County. And we're doing it in a positive way. We want to work with our commissioners, whether you like the hold or you don't like the hold. But that's your decision. You can, at the meeting, you can oppose it or you can speak for it. And we encourage people to come to those meetings and either oppose or speak for to get more citizens to get engaged in government. That's kind of our goal.
So what's the name of the group again?
It's called Hall Informed.
And the website is what?
Hallinformed.org.
Okay, I'm just looking for that so that I can take a look at what you're doing there. So what do you see as the biggest challenge you're facing right now?
I would say the biggest challenge we're facing right now as I speak to a lot of citizens, because like I said, I do go all over Hall County. If you see, I'm all over. The biggest thing I hear is you're not going to be able to change it. They're going to do what they want. We aren't going to get anything different. It's the good old boys club. Well, they're right. They are going to be right. If we don't show up as citizens and have a voice and unite, they're right. So I tell people, when they tell me they don't have time, I said, well, you're going to end up on these roads for 2 hours a day. You're going to end up working 80 hours a week to pay the taxes. So how about you take your hour that week out and attend one of these meetings and have a voice?
So have you thought about running for county commission?
I've had a lot of people ask me that, Martha, if I am running for a seat. And, it is not in my heart to do that right now. This came in my heart because I've I've seen so much negativity, and I feel like the citizens and government are in gridlock, not just in Hall County, but in the state and in our country. And I just feel like if I can get a few people to listen and a few people to change, I've done something. And maybe one day I'll feel differently, but right now, no, that's not in my heart.
Yeah, because there is an open seat, in North Hall. I don't know if that's where you live, but there is an open seat there. Yeah. There's a few people running, and I think that what I have liked about what I've seen from Hall County over the last few years is I have seen some newer voices get in there, and I have seen people try to make a difference. But you're right, it's very difficult, and it's got to be done in baby steps in a lot of ways because it is, it's hard to change things once they start moving down the track. But I think all in all, they listen and they go through a process. But to your point, a lot of people don't show up until the vote's taken, and at that point, you can't really change anything.
You're right, and that's what I keep telling people. When you see those yellow signs go up, immediately stop. Immediately look at that sign, read that sign, and know what's going on and get involved. Because by the time the dirt's moving, you can't stop it.
Right.
And so I'm trying to get people to understand that. I've also went through and I've done it on the Facebook page, and the website is an ever-building thing. I want to get my videos on there, and I have went through and I have explained each board and each person who is on that board, and I encourage people to get to know their commissioners and all of the commissioners, because even though you live in one district, like me, I live in District 3, but I get to know all of the commissioners because they all have a vote. So it's all mixed in. So I encourage people to get to know all of your commissioners. I encourage people to get to know all of your politicians. That way, when you get to that voting booth, you are informed and you are educated. I've talked to a lot of people that will just vote down a ballot. And to me, I was very shocked with that. I guess I have been very political since I've been 18. And I like to be informed, and I just want everybody to be informed. Our group has also started, I refer it to as a slots journey. We have started going to different places that they're talking about S-Slots 9 and where some of the S-Slots 8 money went to, and we are making videos of that. And we are letting people see that and let people decide, is this where you want your penny on the dollar to go? Because I am all about everybody making your own decision. I don't want to tell anybody who to vote for or how to vote. I want you to look at it and make your decision. And I think I've actually gotten a lot of views on those videos.
Well, that's great. Well, Jody White, the group is called hallinformed.org, and you've got a very nice website. And thank you for being with us today, and we'll keep talking, okay?
Yes, thank you, and you have a nice day.
Thank you. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk with you.
Everyone has an opinion.
Thank you very much for allowing average Americans to voice their opinion.
We have the platform. Join the discussion on the Martha Zoller Show weekdays at 9 on North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
You wouldn't want someone you couldn't trust working on your family's HVAC and plumbing, so why would you call anyone but Gainesville Mechanical? They're your local, most trusted and award-winning HVAC and plumbing company in North Georgia. From maintenance appointments and clogged drains to plumbing emergencies and new system installations, their team is ready to serve you. And with their customer assurance maintenance plan, you can receive discounts, priority scheduling, and 24/7 no overtime rates. Gainesville Mechanical and Bryant, doing whatever it takes since 1989.
Is your bathtub or tile cracked, stained, or just the wrong color? Then call Unique Refinishers to repair and reglaze in any color. Tubs starting at just $3.95 save you thousands compared to the cost of replacement. Cracked, damaged, or worn out fiberglass tubs, showers, and jacuzzis can be repaired like new. We offer a full line of safety features like benches, cut-downs, slip-resistant bottoms, and grab bar installation. Call Unique Refinishers at 770-945-0072 or visit us at uniquerefinishers.com.
What if my surviving children are in the middle of a divorce? Can I see to it in advance that my assets go to them and only them? This is Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney, and the answer is yes. There are steps that you need to take now in order to ensure that your assets go where you want them to go. It's up to you, however, to make the first call. Visit my website at kevintharp.com and learn how to get help planning for your family's future.
Here's a tale of Becky. Didn't know what to do with new meds prescribed and no real cost clue.
She squinted at prices, that can't be right. Then tapped GoodRx and saw the light.
She could get a deal. Book telehealth if she feel.
Learn about those meds without any stress. That one little app does all the rest. Even my horse downloaded it. Dang, save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
Some things can steal your sunshine. Ugh, I just got my hair done.
Sorry, the cooler's broken. Anyone see my flip-flops? Anyone?
But COVID-19 can steal a lot more.
I just took a COVID test. Ugh.
Prescription medications for COVID exist. If you test positive this summer, ask your doctor if they're right for you. Visit PfizerForAll.com/COVID-19 to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Harding Chevrolet newsroom, one person is dead, 3 drivers hurt, one facing pending charges from a fatal wreck in White County Tuesday. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Would you vote for Zoller Mondani?
Definitely not. New York would be in bad shape if Mondani get elected, for sure. I'm an immigrant, so I came here from nothing, and I was able to build a future, to give a better future for my kids. I come from a country that's pretty much social. You know, Italy is a pretty social country. It doesn't work here, you know. This is a capitalist country, and Mondani is trying to make, not even socialism, is trying to make a communism country. I mean, like, just go back where you were, you know.
What do you think about government around grocery stores? Would that be a good idea?
Not at all. Not at all. That is totally wrong. I mean, it would not make any sense in a country like United States. I mean, I think it's wrong anywhere in the world, but United States is like, this country is capitalism because you can come here and become somebody. You can live a simple life and just live long, get your job and work for a good company, or you can rise the ladder and become somebody, you know what I mean? And hopefully give more opportunity for your kids. I guess that's what his parents did for him, right? So they moved from a different country to come to United States. They built a good wealth so he could be educated, and he's trying to basically eliminate what the parents had the opportunity to do in this country.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and, you know, I kind of think about Zoller and Mondani and AOC kind of in the same vein, is that they are, you might throw Ilhan Omar in there too. These are folks that are immigrants to this country, become, you know, not AOC, her parents were immigrants, but in the short-sighted time, there were people that came here for a better life. They got that better life. In the case of Zoller Mondani, his parents, I think, are billionaires. They've done really well, and he got a great education here. And now he wants to take down the system. AOC, her parents came here from another country. They did what every good family does that lives in the Bronx back in the 70s, that when they got enough money, they moved to the suburbs, and because the schools were better. And AOC was known as Sandy Cortez back in those days, and she went to high school, and her parents were looking for a better life, because the American dream is not getting rich. Okay, the American dream is your children have a better opportunity than you did. So that could be the guy at the bottom of the ladder who maybe was a janitor, or my dad was a salesman and my mom was also in the retail business, and they were able with us to get us to college. We've done that a little more with our children. So the American dream is giving better opportunity to your children. Just better chance than what you had. My good friend, Herman Cain, who passed away a few years ago, his dad was a truck driver And then he got this job at Coca-Cola where he was the valet to Robert Woodruff. Okay, so he was like the manservant to Robert Woodruff. Paid, okay, but he drove him around. He took care of his clothes. He made sure everything was taken care of for him. In return for that, Robert Woodruff paid for the college education of Herman Cain and his brother. And so they broke the cycle. They went from being kind of working class people to both of these young men having college educations and then going on from there. Ilhan Omar, same thing, came in from Somalia because of the unrest that was in Somalia, came to the United States, and now she wants to tear down the system. I'm not saying that our system doesn't need improvement, okay? But I think it's worked pretty well for 250 years. And human beings are not perfect, but our system works really well for people. I've had many folks, friends of mine who are immigrants, and who have said, Martha, we came here because this was the last place on earth where you could have the best opportunity to make it. And if the U.S. falls, where are we going to go? Where do you go in the world for freedom if the United States isn't what it was anymore? So, I love Europe. I'm a big Anglophile. I travel there all the time. I love the history, all of that kind of stuff. But they're going through a problem that we need to be aware of, that because of our free way of doing things. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's wrong to have freedom of religion or any of those kinds of things, but because of our freedoms, there are people that are coming into our country, whether it's in Europe or it's in the United States, that are using our freedoms against us. Okay? So, for example, we are very tolerant of all different kinds of religions. And there are some religions that are coming into our country that are saying, you have to do it our way or you can't go. There was a meeting in Germany last week where it was a meeting of Islamic groups in Germany. And I'm not playing the audio because it's a translation. It's always hard to do that. But at the main conference of the meeting, they said, we are going to become the majority. And when we become the majority, we are going to change the laws and institute Sharia law. And the Christians and the Jews will have to convert or die. That was said a week ago in Germany in a public meeting. 2 weeks ago in a mosque in Detroit, a imam said basically the same thing. That we are going to take over the United States of America. They are the head of the snake. This is what they said. They are the head of the snake. We are going to take it away. And when we do, we are going to institute Sharia law. Now, I would think the Muslim population in the United States is about 2.5%. And I would say the radical part of that, as there is a radical part of any population, is probably 2% of that. So we're talking about not that many people. But if they get together and they look at something and they are talking against basic freedoms in our country, we ought to care about that. And the problem I think that we have, and this is my big problem with social media, okay? And you can join us on the phones at 770-535-2911. The big problem with social media is in the old days, I know I'm not that old, but in the old days, if you said something that was kind of really out of the mainstream, I'm not saying a good idea that we sit around the table and we expand our knowledge. I'm talking about some crazy idea like, okay, Christians and Jews, we're going to force you to convert to some religion. Or let's go the other way around. A Christian goes and says, we're going to force you to convert to Christianity. Somebody in the community would say, hey, man, that's not cool. We don't do it this way here. And then they would try to teach them how to do it better. Now, that may happen, but you can go to Facebook or whatever I know old people are on Facebook now, okay? But whatever the social media platform of the day is, you can find 100 people or more that thinks your crazy idea is the best idea they ever heard. And they will make you feel good about it. And so you don't learn that ability to critically think and go, wait a minute. So I'll close with this little story because it's a story about a kid. My daughter had an imaginary friend when she was a child. The friend's name, I know, it's true, Kaba ATO was the name of this imaginary friend. And Kaba ATO had a friend called Kelly. And Suzanne, at 4 years old, was telling this story about Kaba ATO, and Kelly got in a fight, and Kelly killed Kaba ATO. Now, you can imagine that the adults around this child kind of freaked out when she did that. Because it was, and she noticed immediately that the adults were like, and she goes, oh no, it didn't happen that way. Kelly's alive. But she got the feedback from the group that her behavior had crossed the line to the point where it was not acceptable, and she adjusted her behavior. I know that's a little 4-year-old example that I hope put a little smile on your face, but that's what we need more of. We need good discussion with people about ideas. But we also need to know how to critically think. And you also need to be able to accept when someone says to you, you know what, I think that goes a little too far. Have you looked at it this way? We have to do more of that. We've got to get back to that. We are too tribal right now in this society. And we've got to change that. Now, you know we're always around the corner and around the world. And next up, we are going to be around the corner again. We're going to be talking to Wade Hanse. He's a PhD. He works at Lakeview Academy, and he's an expert on the Promise Scholarship. And we're going to talk about that and what it means for your child's education next.
This is Chelsea Hogan, and I'm proud to announce that Laura Chastain and I have teamed up to form the CHI Insurance Agency. While under a new name, we still offer health insurance and Medicare products that fit your needs. When you have questions or concerns, you'll talk to Laura or me directly, not a call center. See Laura Chastain in the Rubicon Building in Gainesville, or me, Chelsea Hogan, in Cleveland. Personal service from agents you know. We are the CHI Agency. 706-609-9811.
Hey, it's Chuck Dowdle, and I'm looking for 25 Super Dog fans to go with me May 6th to Iceland with Colette and Peach State Bank and Trust. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to teach them how to call the dogs in Icelandic. We're going to see massive glaciers that sculpt mountains and valleys. We're going to see thundering waterfalls and plunging fjords. We're going to walk on a black volcanic sand beach, relax in the warm, mineral-rich water of the Sky Lagoon. And Colette has us covered, from arranging the flights, meals, hotels, and all the local experiences, allowing us to simply enjoy the journey. So call Colette at 800-581-8942 or visit WDUNtravels.com to learn more.
Let me show you the world. Come away with me.
Presented by Colette, Peach State Bank and Trust, and WDUN. Go Dogs!
Tune in to 2 hours of local football fun with the Pick'em Show, coach interviews, game previews, and general mayhem. So join Bo, Caleb, Jeff, and Walker Thursday night at 6 on AM 550 and FM 102.9, or video stream them on YouTube at Access WDUN Sports. WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 9:30.
Fox News, I'm Therese Crowley. President Trump insists his job is to protect the country on two fronts today, with video showing a drug-laden speedboat out of Venezuela exploding in a U.S. missile strike in the Caribbean. With 11 Tren de Aragua crew dead, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells Fox.
We knew exactly who was in that boat, we knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
Warning any narco-terrorist can expect the same fate. The president vowing we're going into Chicago. The only question is when for National Guard troops. After a weekend, crime stats even worse than last year left 50 shot and 8 dead. Progressive Mayor Brandon Johnson.
We do not want or need military occupation in our city.
It's promising enhanced enforcement. America's listening to Fox News.
always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow, and charges are pending from a fatal wreck Tuesday afternoon out of White County. WDUN's Logan Landers with the update.
Georgia State Patrol says a trooper responded with multiple agencies from White County and City of Cleveland to a 3-car wreck along US 129 by Albert Reed Road at around 1 p.m. to find the car driven by Julia Robinson of Gainesville reportedly left the southbound lanes and crossed into the path of the car driven by Melania Zavala of Cleveland, striking the car head-on. The car driven by Marilyn Fry of Cleveland was following Zavala's car and was also involved in the wreck. All 3 drivers were taken from the scene by White County's EMS for treatment for injuries, but the GSP release says a passenger in Robinson's car, 51-year-old Brian Wallace of Claremont, was pronounced dead at the scene.
Gainesville Board of Education adopting a spending resolution Tuesday during its work session for September. It allows for 1/12 of the previous fiscal year's budget as maximum for spending. School districts required by law to adopt a budget next fiscal year by June 30th, but if the school district is unable to do so, a spending resolution must be approved by the board to continue operations. Maximum resolution for September will be roughly $11 million, while the board is set to adopt its fiscal year 2026 budget September 15th. More news online at Access WDUN. Now here's your Access WDUN weather forecast.
Hello, North Georgia. Wednesday, here we come. We're already halfway there. Partly to mostly cloudy skies. A stray shower or storm can't be ruled out. Highs this afternoon in the lower 80s. I'd have umbrellas just in case. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Suwanee and in Talmo, currently 72 degrees, and in Gainesville, 71. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
There's no doubt a metal roof from Dawsonville Metal Products can improve your home's appearance. But you may not realize that it could also improve your bottom line. That's because metal roofing is more energy efficient than composite roofing, and it could also lower your insurance premiums. It's also maintenance-free and lighter than composite roofing. Find out more with a call to Jason Odom at Dawsonville Metal Products at 706-265-3099. And check them out on the web at dawsonvillemetal.com.
Aren't you glad that cooler weather and the fall planting season is here? This is Kelly, and Full Bloom Nursery is stocking up on beautiful mums and fall annuals. Plus, we're fully stocked with 4 acres of perennial shrubs and trees. Since 2003, Full Bloom Nursery has been helping customers all over North Georgia. To get started on your projects, give us a call at 678-616-3035. Visit fullbloomnursery.com for more info, and be sure to like us on Facebook to see what's growing.
Use the Access WDUN Talk and Text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and joining me right now is Wade Hanse. He's a PhD that works at Lakeview Academy, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Promise Scholarship. But Wade, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much, Martha. Thanks for having me.
First, tell folks a little bit about you first.
Well, I have been in the greater Gainesville community for 5 years. I've worked for Lakeview for 5 years, and I have 2 kids that are going through the Lakeview school right now as well. And my wife and I have just fallen in love with this area, and we hope to be a part of it for a very long time.
Yeah, it is a great community, isn't it? It is fantastic. So the Promise Scholarship was passed a couple of years ago, and it is a opportunity for funds to be used so that kids in Georgia will have a choice in schools and can go to a private school. Tell folks a little bit about the Promise Scholarship and then how you've been able to interact with it.
Absolutely. So the Promise Scholarship is a state-funded scholarship that parents can choose to apply for and use for either a private school tuition opportunity or even for home learning or any of the services that might go along with it. And I think the important distinction between the Promise Scholarship and other programs like goal funding and other things like that is that our families control these funds. And so it empowers the Georgia families to really choose what is best for their child and their academic journey. At Lakeview Academy, we've been able to utilize this in a way that we have seen an increase in families that want to learn more about private education, want to understand what it is about, and understand what we can offer. We saw a huge influx in the initial April window for the application window of families that just wanted to learn more about who we were, what we could offer. And when I talked to my private school colleagues around the state, they experienced a very similar phenomenon that was about opening up private school education as an opportunity or an option for families that may not have considered it before.
So if someone wanted to research or find out about the Promise Scholarship, what's the best way to them to initially interact?
So I always send families first to My Georgia Promise. It is a wonderful website that takes all of the information that is out there about the scholarship and some of the jargon that is out there around the policy, and it distills it into a format that is accessible for families to really understand better about what the Promise Scholarship can be used for, how they can apply for it, and then where are the support systems as they go through the process.
And so then, so they go through that, and then what would happen, like, as the parents put the information in? I guess you get awarded a scholarship. Does that scholarship have to be tied to a school at that time, or how does that work?
You can apply and then choose the school or the opportunity that you want to use those funds for later. So when I've had families come to Lakeview, a great example being that they're not sure yet. And so I encourage them to go through the Promise application process, because that has to happen first, because those are the family's funds. Those are not dependent upon the school. And so I encourage them to apply first, and then if Lakeview is the right fit for them, they determine that that's what they want to pursue, they can allocate those funds to the institution of their choice later in the process. But the first step is always to do the application through My Georgia Promise and the Odyssey app.
So it sounds to me, and again, folks, y'all may not know this, I'm the 9th District board member for the State Board of Education, and of course we oversee rules and things like that for bills related to education. We also vote on a lot of money, let me tell you. I remember in 2020 in my first round when I had to vote on my first $1 billion contract, and it was quite nerve-wracking, okay? And during COVID, they got as high as being $4 or $5 billion contracts that were being allocated from the federal government. So it's a lot of, we're not in charge of your local school, but we do organize the things like the LEAs and approved charter schools and things like that. But it sounds to me what this is doing, at least from the interaction from the people that have gotten to you, is that it has opened up opportunities that maybe families that think, oh, I could never afford to send my kid to private school. Now it's an option for them to look into it. They may not ultimately decide to do it, but they have that option now. Is that fair?
That's absolutely fair. We have seen more and more families that want to know more and want to understand what private education can do for them. I think it's also important to note that through that My Georgia Promise website, families can actually go and see which private schools are participating in the Georgia Promise program so that they can understand what opportunities exist within a reasonable radius of their area.
So when the bill was passed, I'm sure, this wasn't part of your, or maybe this was part of your job before the bill was passed, but was this something that happened, this bill gets passed, and then somebody comes and knocks on the door and goes, hey, Wade, we want you to look into this, or did you know that it was going to be a part of your responsibility?
It was one of those responsibilities that fell under other duties as assigned. But my background in educational policy, I have a passion for this and what policy can do for families in this state. And so that led to me being the natural fit for my school to be the liaison between families and the Promise Scholarship. And so that was something that really wasn't on our radar, but when we thought it might get passed, we were very proactive in understanding how that was going to work for our institution, because we're interested in that because we have pre-K families as well. And if you have never been in a public school, you can still get the Promise Scholarship if you are entering kindergarten. And that's where we've seen the most interest. We've seen it across all grades, but a huge influx of kindergarten families that are really interested in pursuing this as an opportunity. And so as soon as we thought that this bill might get passed, we were very proactive in this.
So I don't know if you could answer this question because it's probably a lot of different numbers, but what percentage would you say of the total tuition for a year at Lakeview would the Promise Scholarship cover? Because I think it's $6,500, something like that.
Yeah, so the Promise Scholarship will award up to $6,500. I always tell family that the 5% of that could be allocated for the administrative fees that go along with everything that goes with this scholarship. However, this award, this scholarship, would cover, depending on which grade you are a part of. For our kindergarten class, it's going to cover almost half of that tuition, probably right at a third. And then as you move up and the tuition for our institution increases, it's going to drop to about a quarter of that. But what I want to encourage all the families that are listening today is for any private school, not just Lakeview Academy, do not let the dollars keep you from having a conversation. Private schools have so many avenues for you to pursue tuition assistance or other means for you to pursue private school as an opportunity.
You know, years ago when I first started in radio, we had a producer here that ended up going into teaching and taught in one of the archdioceses in Atlanta and taught at a Catholic school in Atlanta. And at that time, I think because it was an inner city school, it had a fairly low tuition. But the idea in the diocese was that it was important for parents to pay something for it because it makes them be more of an owner of their child's education, you know what I mean? And so that, and also that it meant a lot that these parents in this inner city where this Catholic school was had really worked hard to be able to get their kid into the school. So they were invested in that school. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true everywhere.
Yeah, we see that especially in our community. There is nobody at Lakeview who is paying nothing.
Yes.
And that's because we say that we are first and foremost a family, and we want to make sure that everybody feels that they are a part of it and that they understand what it is to be a part of this community. And so the Promise Scholarship is certainly helpful. Tuition assistance is certainly helpful, but everybody has something that they are able to put towards their education. And it just makes it mean more for that family.
We're going to take a break now. When we come back, we've got one more segment with Wade Hanse from Lakeview Academy. We're going to talk a little more about the Promise Scholarship. If you have any questions, you can text them to 770-535-2911, and I'll be happy to ask Wade. We'll be back on the Martha Zoller Show.
Turn on the AC and turn up the radio for news and information on The Drive at 5 from AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
You already know Gainesville Mechanical for their award-winning HVAC service, but did you know they handle plumbing too? Because plumbing problems never happen at a good time, you need a trusted, experienced team there when they do. From small leaks to major repairs, Gainesville Mechanical is here for you with 24/7 no overtime rates through their Customer Assurance Maintenance Plan. Proud to be named Best of Hall for HVAC and plumbing, Gainesville Mechanical and Bryant, doing whatever it takes to keep North Georgia cool since 1989.
Should you make your trust the beneficiary of your IRA? So many say you shouldn't, but we say you should. This is Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney, and if you want your IRA to be protected for your surviving spouse, children, or family, then you should leave it to them at your death through a trust. For more information, go to my website, kevintharp.com.
This is Mike Martin of Milton Martin Toyota. Luke 16:11 says, "If therefore you have not been faithful in the use of worldly wealth, who will entrust the true riches to you?" Milton Martin Toyota has found the services of Crown Financial Ministries in Gainesville to be a valuable resource for practical learning and application of God's Word and its teaching on stewardship. Crown Financial Ministries assists those who are determined to be good stewards of the many gifts God gives them, including their time and their family. Crown Financial Ministries can assist you with life planning and managing financial resources as well. For more information on Crown Financial Ministries, please call them at 1-800-722-1976 or their website is www.crown.org. This message has been brought to you by the staff of Milton Martin Toyota. Our website is miltonmartintoyota.com.
Hey there, it's Cody Lovin, owner of Crawlspace Medic. Is your crawl space giving you trouble? Maybe it's moisture, structural issues, or even foul odors? Don't worry, my team and I, we've seen it all. At Crawlspace Medic, we specialize in crawl space repairs, encapsulations, and basement waterproofing, ensuring your home's foundation stays solid and protected. We're all about delivering top-notch service you can trust with solutions that last. Give me a call at 706-410-2400 or visit crawlspacemedic.com for a free evaluation.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, Gwinnett County is moving forward with plans for Gwinnett Place Mall by buying the former Sears site. Details at Access WDUN. And coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical, from the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. It's always great to be here, and we're talking local right now. Wade Hanse is a PhD and works for Lakeview Academy, and we're talking a little bit about the Promise Scholarship, and that is, mygeorgiapromise.org. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you can look at this, a new bill that came in a couple of years ago, and I know public schools, are concerned that that's going to take money away from them. It is not. It is separate money. It doesn't come out of the FTE or any of that kind of stuff. There'll still be QBE, fully funded, and all the things that happen in public schools. But what it does is gives parents a choice, lets them explore the choice. And I think that's a positive thing. And Wade, what you're telling me is that you've had a lot of people that maybe wouldn't have considered Lakeview Academy that are doing that now.
Absolutely. It has been an eye-opening experience for a lot of families, and I don't want to take away from anything that the public schools are doing in Gainesville and the Hall County community. I think that when we're all successful, that is best for the community, but it has allowed some families who are either right on the edge or had never considered private education before to take a look and see what it might do for their family. And like I always say, education comes in many different flavors, and Lakeview is not going to be the flavor for everybody. But
well, and different kids need different things. I mean, that's for sure. So tell us what Lakeview Academy looks like today, because I think a lot of people have known Lakeview Academy. It's been in the community, I think, since 1972 is the number that sticks in my head. Is that right?
1970.
70, okay. So I was a little off there. So tell us what Lakeview Academy looks like today.
So Lakeview Academy today is committed to what we say is today's learner. So we've always had high academic standards, and we continue to have high academic standards. But what we also want families to know is that we are a college prep school who is highly supportive. We're going to know every kid's first, middle, and last name. And we are going to support them to meet the high academic standards that we set. When you arrive at college, academics is only half of what you really need to be successful. So we really lean into the personal development, the organization, the personal finance, everything else that is going to make that experience better for your child, we want to do to the best of our ability. And so we like to say that we are a school that is committed to those high academic standards, but we are about good human beings and about making sure that we lean in just as much to the personal development side of it.
So have you always worked in private schools?
I did 1 year in public education, Cobb County, many, many years ago. And then I took an opportunity in a private school in Atlanta. I started off actually as an assistant teacher, and I have kind of worked my way through, and I have fallen in love with it. I was somebody who went through public school myself, but I have fallen in love with the ability to have the autonomy to pivot quickly and make changes quickly and do what is best for students. And so that is the reason why I'm in private education, why I went and got my doctorate so I could lead private schools as well. And I am just so enamored with this community and what Lakeview is doing and the opportunity that has presented itself to me now.
And you guys have students come from all over the place, don't you? I mean, I see Lakeview buses in the most unusual places sometimes.
Yeah, our radius is about a 45-minute radius. It's not overly common, but we have had students that are driving 45 minutes to get to school. But most of our students are within about a 15-minute to 20-minute radius down to about Flowery Branch or Brazelton and up to kind of the South Dahlonega area. But we've had them as far as the far reaches of Northeast Georgia. And I think that is because of what we are offering and the experience that we have of the small class sizes and making sure that you aren't going to hide and you're going to get that education.
So I want to put your policy hat on for a minute because I think it's fair to say that education of all kinds, especially post-COVID, has had a big challenge. I mean, I think that, Senator John Kennedy, who is running for lieutenant governor right now, he's the president pro tem of the Senate. He's had a big issue around absenteeism. And in fact, there's a study committee that's going on right now that they're working on a policy that we've got in public schools anyway. We've got, it's shocking what the absenteeism is since COVID especially. And first of all, do you see that in private schools? And then from your with your policy hat on, what do you think are the biggest issues in education right now?
Well, that is actually something we have also seen in private education. It is something that, again, because of our policy, we can be more proactive in rewarding our students who are there. Students learn best when they are in the seat.
That's right.
And so that is something that we have always leaned into. Even with our dual enrollment, we actually hire our people to do dual enrollment classes because they learn best when they are taught in person, not on a computer. I think that we are feeling the wave of what families and students got used to during COVID, where it was this kind of laissez-faire, get through this type of attitude around education. And I unfortunately feel that it is going to be a long road back to making sure that families and schools are partnering together to make sure that students are in school and ready to learn. I think that there has been a cultural shift, and we could go in all day about, grade inflation and everything else that is happening, but we have to make it worth our students' while to be in the classroom and understand what is that opportunity there. And I think that it truly is going to be holding our families accountable, but also holding our schools to a higher standard to make sure that what we are offering is something that is worthwhile for being in the seat. If I can miss a class and then go online at night and make up whatever was there, am I symbolically reinforcing the standards that I really want to see?
Well, yeah, I know with the people I've mentored over the years, they're mostly college students, but it's the number one thing I tell them is show up for class. If you show up for class, that's half the battle. Don't miss classes. My freshman year in college, I had this horrible schedule. I had 2nd, 4th, 6th, and the 8th period. We were on quarter system back then. And so having like 2 hours in between classes, sometimes that last class of the day I didn't get to as often as I should have. And I learned the hard way because my grades suffered. My parents said, if this is as good as you can do, you can come home and go to a community college. You know what I mean? Right. And so I buckled down and I made Dean's List every other semester, and, and I heard them, because I had, my parents were involved, and there were consequences to my actions. So it was important to do that. But I think that, a lot has happened. What I've seen are two things. One, parents really saw what kids were learning and didn't like some of what they saw, rightly so, and have gotten more involved in that process, which I think they should be, And then the second thing was it got to be a little more acceptable not to be in school, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, it has definitely been that cultural shift that I talk about. And unfortunately, when you talk about a cultural change, when you're talking about cultural change, it is very rarely revolutionary. It usually follows that evolutionary path. And I think that COVID disrupted
Rest on the Martha Zoller Show are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect those of Jacobs Media or our advertisers. The Martha Zoller Show is a presentation of North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9, WDUN.
While technology has certainly changed the way people do business, it hasn't changed the way we treat our customers. It's Mike Cormier, and at Hardy Chevrolet, we are as committed to excellent customer service as the Hardys were when they started the business here in Gainesville over 4 decades ago. When it's time for a new or used vehicle, remember what Charles Hardy always said.
We love you and we need you.
Together, let's drive. At Hardy Chevrolet, Brownsbridge Road in Gainesville, online at hardychevrolet.com.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu, medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 10 o'clock.
It's not if, but when. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump says he will deploy troops to Chicago, which Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker in Illinois says not wanted or needed.
None of this is about fighting crime or making Chicago safer. None of it. For Trump, it's about testing his power and producing a political drama to cover up for his corruption.
While the politicians go back and forth, while Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago blames the violence here on guns that have been trafficked out of red states, 7 more people were shot in the city of Chicago overnight. President Trump says he is obligated to send in the National Guard.
Fox's Mike Tobin in Chicago.
We've already spotted some uniformed DHS personnel here downtown. Some of them are staging at the Great Lakes Naval Base just north of Chicago.
The president says troops he deployed in Washington make D.C. a lot safer, but a federal judge has ruled he illegally sent troops to Los Angeles to deal with protests over illegal immigration raids in June. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tells Fox that's being appealed.
Everything we did in Los Angeles was lawful and, by the way, effective.
As for the U.S. military strike on a boat in the Caribbean near Venezuela, Secretary Hegseth also tells Fox.
You want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate.
Russian leader Vladimir Putin just spoke about his ongoing war in Ukraine following another barrage of missiles and drones launched overnight. Putin claims he's not fighting to take territory, but for people's rights. He's in China, where he held talks with North Korea's leader, thanking Kim Jong-un for sending troops to help in the war. They both also attended the biggest Chinese military parade ever.
With new weaponry on full display, tens of thousands of troops marched. There were fighter jets and tanks lining the streets. The parade also showcased new underwater drones, laser weapons, and even nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missiles made their debut as Beijing marked the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II.
That's Alex Hogan. America's listening to Fox.
Always here, always local.
WDUN. From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow, and charges are pending from a fatal wreck Tuesday afternoon out of White County. WDUN's Logan Landers reports.
Georgia State Patrol says a trooper responded with multiple agencies from White County and City of Cleveland to a 3-car wreck along US 129 by Albert Reed Road at around 1 p.m. to find the car driven by Julia Robinson of Gainesville reportedly left the southbound lanes and crossed into the path of the car driven by Melania Zavala of Cleveland, striking the car head-on. The car driven by Marilyn Fry of Cleveland was following Zavala's car and was also involved in the wreck. All 3 drivers were taken from the scene by White County's EMS for treatment for injuries, but the GSP release says a passenger in Robinson's car, 51-year-old Brian Wallace of Claremont, was pronounced dead at the scene.
Gainesville City Board of Education adopted a spending resolution for September during its work session Tuesday that allows for 1/12 of the previous fiscal year's budget as maximum for spending in September. Officials are hoping to have a budget in place by September 15th for the 2026 year, after being told that school districts are required by law to adopt the budget for the next fiscal year by June 30th. And if not able to do so, a spending resolution must be approved by the board to continue operations. Traffic around Chestatee Academy could lighten up as the Sardis Connector project continues. WDUN's William Daughtry with more.
According to the Georgia Department of Transportation, a permanent school driveway for Chestatee Academy on Sardis Road will open for school use on Monday. Work on the driveway will begin on Friday and continue while school is not in session. The current completion date for the $85.5 million project is estimated to be September 30th of 2028. The improvement at the school will enhance access to Chestatee Academy and reduce congestion.
And Gwinnett County is moving forward with plans for Gwinnett Place Mall, buying the former Sears site for $11.5 million. That purchase brings the county's total land at the site to 87.5 acres. County plans to turn the aging mall into a walkable mixed-use hub with a new transit center by 2032. CBRE will lead the development search, with proposals opening nationwide this month. You'll find more news and details by going online to Access WDUN. Now, here's your Access WDUN weather forecast from meteorologist Holly Strano.
Hello, North Georgia. Wednesday, here we come. We're already halfway there. Partly to mostly cloudy skies. A stray shower or storm can't be ruled out. Highs this afternoon in the lower 80s. I'd have umbrellas just in case. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Tallulah Falls, 70 degrees. In Winder and in Gainesville, 72 degrees. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9, WDUN.
Hey, Georgia, let me ask you something. What's the best kind of money? How about instant money? With Quick Win's Instant 50 promotion, you can win a progressive jackpot instantly and win $50 instantly just for playing. Now through September 14th, there will be 2,000 instant winners a week. All you have to do is look for the prize alert on your ticket and listen for this sound.
You're a winner!
If you hear that, it means you won $50 right there on the spot. The Instant 50 promotion starts now and ends September 14th, so hurry and play Quick Win from the Georgia Lottery. Please play responsibly. Always check and sign your ticket.
Hey, Georgia, looking to win a ton of cash? Pick up a scratcher from the Georgia Lottery. You know, there are almost 367,000 scratcher winners a day. That's over 2.3 million winners a week. Just go to your favorite retailer to get your hands on a scratcher today.
Tune in to WSB Channel 2 for your official Georgia Lottery drawing and check out the Players Club at GALottery.com.
talking about the issues that affect you most. It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. Now from the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, here's Martha Zoller on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN. Always here, always local.
Women I've been talking to are really, really concerned, and they're emotional, and I think a lot of them have a right to be.
Politicians aren't perfect. They're imperfect like everybody else. Trump's rhetoric isn't for everybody. His style isn't for everybody. We got a lot of good things done under Trump.
Okay, then what they did, meaning a woman's right to choose, is removed under Trump.
That's not the only issue in this world, okay? A percentage of the female vote went up 2%. So are those women crazy? I mean, it's not 50%, but it's high 40s, and he got that. So ask those women, like, they voted for Trump. So clearly it wasn't just abortion was the issue. Now, I agree. Even in very Republican states, pro-choice amendments have done very, very well, okay? So it is a concern. I think most people are pro-choice, okay? But at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of people, there's other things. They're concerned about the broken border. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about a lot of other things. So women are not one-dimensional. Men are not one-dimensional. And so if you're upset about abortion, great. If that's your prime issue, then go live in a state that's pro-choice.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. So Don Lemon did not expect to get this very reasonable person randomly in Central Park, but it's what happens. And he mentioned crime, which I think is the number one issue. And joining me right now is Chief Stephen Sund. He's the former chief of the United States Capitol Police. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in D.C. Chief Sund, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Martha.
So, it seems like a huge turnaround, not only from the crime standpoint, which is the most important thing in my view, because of it's how you live your day-to-day life, but it's also the language that's being used by the mayor and by others about the need to have this kind of enhanced look at policing in these big cities.
You are 100% correct. And not only was I the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, I was with D.C. Police for a little over 25 years. I've worked with Mayor Bowser on various initiatives. So you're absolutely right. This is just smart policing. We've done this in the past. We brought in during what's called the Safe Streets Initiative, Summer Crime Initiative. We brought in ATF, DEA, FBI because of their specialties in those areas for going after serious crimes. They can get forensics back a lot quicker. And we'd also bring in National Guard to help support missions like lighting missions to light communities so the kids can come out and play. So this has been done before. Now, because it's being pushed from the White House and it's being the president's invoking Clause 740 of the Home Rule Act, it's getting all this political rhetoric, which ultimately, in the end, isn't doing the people being most victimized by crime any good.
Yeah, and so what's it like on the streets of D.C. right now?
I can tell you, I was down there last night from about 7 p.m. till probably even close to 10 p.m. It's definitely a quieter city. There's a lot of people out. Restaurants were doing pretty good. I was in a restaurant for a little while last night. But I talked to D.C. police who are at a 50-year staffing low. Morale is low. They haven't been able to do their job. They got city councils passed legislation that ties their hands. They're now actually being able to go out and being encouraged to do their job, and they can show you what they can do. So they're encouraged. I've talked to people in the community who like seeing the police out there. I'll tell you, 95% of the victims of crime in Washington, D.C. are the black community, and they're the ones that you see out there appreciative of it. They're not the ones out there protesting it up in Northwest. They're the ones appreciative of the resources you're seeing in Southeast, Lincoln Heights, Congress Heights, where they're asking to see more. So you're seeing an effective response, and you're seeing the courts also being supportive, which sometimes in the past haven't.
I saw an interview with Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois where he's taken some sort of walk with a reporter, and he says, the reporter asked him, you had 55 shootings this weekend and 7 people killed. Why aren't you asking for help? And he says, oh, big cities are going to have crime. That's, to me, that is, and look, I'm not anti-rich at all. I'm glad J.B. Pritzker comes from a rich family. But that sounds like a comment from a rich guy who's never lived anywhere but behind a gated house in a gated community and doesn't know what it's like when you're the regular person. I remember it in 2020. There was this video during one of the riots in Minneapolis of a black woman saying to these two white girls that were vandalizing a Starbucks, and she's asking them, what are they doing? And they're going, I'm trying to help you. She goes, no, you're not helping me, because you're going to leave and go back where you are, and I'm going to and they're never going to rebuild here. So I think it's a lot of people that don't deal with this kind of crime every day, and they swoop in and they go, oh, you just don't understand, honey. You may live here, but you don't understand.
But you're absolutely right, and it's sad because, again, his rhetoric only further victimizes those people most affected by crime. I can tell you he has never walked a footbeat in the evening through some of these high crime areas. He's never gone out there on patrol with the police officers to see what they have to deal with and see how this crime is really affecting people. He's using political sound bites to get votes, which is irresponsible and reckless. He was out there saying, when Trump comes in, he's going to come in to terrorize communities and break up community picnics. He's not going after the criminals. He's absolutely going after the criminals. He's not talking anything about rhetoric. He's not making this political. He's making it specifically about crime and crime stats. So I agree with you 100%. It's a shame when politicians, again, in their, high ivory towers, don't get exposed to this. Again, just can further victimize the crime victims that are out there already.
We're talking to former chief of the United States Capitol Police, Stephen Sund. And, down here in Atlanta, I'm sure you followed the story about the police training facility and all the problems we had getting that open. But it's now open. And, I thought after 2020, what we wanted was better trained police, which is what this center gives. And Mayor Dickens has been very kind to me because I have advocated for this center since the beginning. The 3 different city councils voted on it. It is going to give the opportunity for first responders of all kinds to get the kind of training they need. And so that's good. What is it going to take in your view? Because every police department I talk to or sheriff's department across the country has some level of morale problems. Now, in places like where I live in Gainesville, Georgia, we're very supportive of police. It's not as bad. But there are places like D.C. and New York and Chicago and L.A. where police feel dejected. What is it going to take to make this better?
It's going to take a concerted effort. We got to stop playing these politics with people's safety. You got to come together. Both sides of the aisle need to support police. Where you see really, really low morale, you're seeing it from the political top being pushed down onto the council, or the council pushing it down onto the mayor, the city, the chief, and it goes down from there. Yeah, you'll have some bad internal leaders in police departments that only exacerbate the low morale. But when you're in these areas where you don't even get support from your city leadership, that's horrible. We've got to come together, and it makes no sense from a police officer. How can you at any time politicize people's safety? I'll tell you, people in the community want safety in their community, safety in their kids' school, and good economic development. They want an economic future. If you can't give them those, they have no sense of security, no sense of future. So I think somehow we got to come together, both sides of the aisle, and again support the men and women of law enforcement. Train them appropriately, outfit them effectively, and let them do their JOBs.
So what's your advice to people right now about what we can do? I mean, obviously, my thing is we gotta vote. We got to parent our children, and we've got to stop being so tribal about everything. Look, I'm a strong conservative Republican. I love what the president is doing right now. But I also we need to get around the table with people, because I think it's the leadership that's the problem in the Democratic Party, that the problem is not the people. When you talk to the people, they want the same things. You may disagree with me about this, Stephen, but Donald Trump is not that conservative. What he is a pragmatist, common sense leader. Okay, he's conservative on the things I like him to be conservative on. You know what I mean? But he will meet people. I know that if a J.B. Pritzker or the mayor of Chicago called up and said, "Hey, President Trump, we would like to work with you," he would find a way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're seeing that with Mayor Bowser. Mayor Bowser has now come out and said, hey, I want to support this initiative beyond the September 25th, I think it is the expiration date. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, and has come up with some ideas for it. You're absolutely right. He will sit down and talk to anybody. I think that's just how he is. He's extremely detail-oriented. That's one of the reasons he's about beautification, reducing crime. But you're absolutely right. I think he would be willing to talk to anybody. And I would applaud any city leader that would reach out and say, you know what, enough is enough. My people have been victimized too much. I want some help. I want to coordinate these federal resources to try and help my people. They're not coming in to terrorize them. They're trying to come in to help your community. And I'd applaud. And I can tell you, media across the spectrum would applaud leaders like that. So I agree with you. I'd like to see more of that. And I know he would absolutely speak with them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on today and talking about this. And I'm hopeful about the future. Thank you.
Always. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you. We'll take a break. Lots more to come.
This week on Bud's Garage, semis are center stage, your car buying homework assignments, and much more. That's Bud's Garage, presented by Complete Auto Parts and Oakwood Tire and More, Saturday at noon on North Georgia's News Talk, WDUN. Always here, always local.
Is your bathtub or tile cracked, stained, or just the wrong color? Then call Unique Refinishers to repair and reglaze in any color. Tubs starting at just $3.95 save you thousands compared to the cost of replacement. Cracked, damaged, or worn-out fiberglass tubs, showers, and jacuzzis can be repaired like new. We offer a full line of safety features like benches, cut-downs, slip-resistant bottoms, and grab bar installation. Call Unique Refinishers at 770-945-0072 or visit us at uniquerefinishers.com.
There's nothing quite like a local neighbor. That's why AARP is local, right here in Midtown Atlanta, to offer you free events and enriching experiences that help you with finances, family, and fun. We are in the community, connecting you to what matters most right when you need it. Visit our website at aarp.org/GA or visit us on social media at AARP Georgia to find out more information on how we're helping your money, health, and happiness live as long as you do.
Does your office technology slow your team down? Nothing is more frustrating than printers that jam, copiers that won't connect, and service providers that don't follow through. You and your team deserve technology that works. I'm Matt Nick, president of Duplicating Products, and for over 50 years, we've helped North Georgia offices eliminate bottlenecks, reduce downtime, and get reliable support for office technology. Our promise, we do what we say we will do. If you're tired of office equipment headaches, it's time for a change. Visit us today at duplicatingproducts.com.
Whether it's a slip that ends in a slip disc, a trick knee that's holding you back, or shoulder pain hurting your game, you can count on Northside Hospital Orthopedics. With leading care in Georgia at convenient locations all across the state, we're here to get you back on your feet, no matter what comes your way. Because Georgia moves us, and we keep Georgia moving. Find a provider near you at northside.com/ortho. That's northside.com/ORTHO.
It's Mike Robertson of Oakwood Tire and More. As our name suggests, we can handle all your tire needs, but some have asked what we mean when we say and more. At Oakwood Tire, we're more than just tires. We also handle general repair. We handle alignments, brakes, AC service, suspension work. Speaking of suspension work, if you're looking to upgrade your ride, we can put tires, wheels, lift kit, anything like that on there. See us at www.oakwoodtire.com. Stop by at 3120 Atlanta Highway, where we're more than just tires.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, Gainesville's Board of Education adopts spending resolutions for September during its Tuesday work session meeting. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
Use the Access WDUN talk and text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
One of the big things is it helps decide congressional maps.
Right.
Does this have everything to do with redistricting?
Well, it does. In fact, we know the 2020 census, the errors were almost always to the detriment of red states. Blue states like Rhode Island. Do we know that? We do know that. The Census Bureau's own audit of its work has proven that. Blue states like Rhode Island were overcounted. Rhode Island then didn't lose a seat. Red states like Alabama were undercounted. This is just a fact. It wasn't all red-blue, but it was disproportionately red-blue.
It is the Martha Zoller Show. So the census did their own audit of the census and found that blue states were overcounted in many cases and red states were undercounted. Now, I think that has to do with the rural nature of a lot of red states, and I would like to know how that compares to other census. Do we have this problem overall? But I also know that, look, there is an underlying plan that the Biden administration had, that if you let as many people in as possible, that it will offset people moving to red states. So it did do that in California. There were 1 million people that moved out of California, but they counted about 500,000 more illegal immigrants in the census. Now, you're gonna think I'm crazy here because I'm gonna defend counting everyone in the census, okay? And I'm not defending all the other stuff they do with this data. The long form that ask you all these crazy questions about who lives in your home and blah, 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 blah. We don't need any of that. It should be just a count of how many people are living in the United States. And what the Constitution says is every person in the United States, January 1st of a census year, should be counted. It does not designate between citizen and non-citizen. Now, what I don't know is, do you need a constitutional amendment to change that language, or can you do legislation to codify that language? Okay? And I think that probably we're going to do some language to codify that language. I mean, do some codifying of that language if you want to just count citizens. It does not say that in the Constitution. You may not like that, but that's what the Constitution says. You can join us on the phones at 770-535-2911. Just like it says, you don't have to live in your congressional district that you run in, because the Congress and the Constitution understands that certain things are political. So drawing districts are political because, you might want to draw somebody out of a district. For example, in the original cycle that we'd had after the 2020 census, Andrew Clyde was drawn out of his district. Okay, we had Butch Miller on to talk about that. Okay, when they changed it back in 2022, he's back in his district, but he's on the edge of his district. Okay, so you do not have to live in the district you're running in. All right, and that's because the lines change. And they don't want you to have to move every single time. Now, John Barrow moved a lot. He was like the cat with 9 lives. His district kept getting moved, and until the final time, he was able to work in that new district. But I'm kind of old school about this, is that I think if our ideas are better, we ought to be able to fight in a district that isn't necessarily a slam dunk district. So what I would like to see is districts that keep communities together, that keep counties together as much as possible, and are reasonable to look at, okay? I know that very few of you agree with me about that. I understand that. I just have a real strong sense of what I think is right and wrong related to this. I think the way we draw districts today, where it's totally political, I don't like that. Even though I understand it's a political process. I think it ought to be about creating communities. I think we have divided people. When we take a sliver of Hall County and put it in the 7th district, just so it can have a few more Republican voters, I don't think that's right. Now, I understand cutting Gwinnett County in half because Gwinnett County's got more population than one district. It's going to have more than one district. Just like Fulton and DeKalb and Cobb, they are counties that have more population in their individual county than a district has. So I understand that. But when you cut counties, like we're 280,000 now. I haven't followed the numbers of what the total population of Hall County is. There's no reason why our county should not all be in one congressional district. But it was political. You remember Senator Shelley Eccles came on to talk about that because she kind of got snookered. And that implies she did something wrong. I don't mean that. What I mean is she was taken advantage of and put in a position where she had to vote for, she didn't vote for one of the maps, but she ended up having to vote for a map that took a sliver out of Hall County because they wanted to cut Gainesville in half. So she had to compromise between two things that should have never been options. Hall County should have been kept together. And that's what ought to be the first look. When you do the first look, you ought to keep cities and counties together where possible. And in general, that should be, if it's substantially less population than an entire district, there ought to be no reason why you can't put it together. Keep it together. You can join us on the phones at 770-535-2911. I am going to be going to the Faith and Freedom Dinner later on this month, and I'm also going to the Power of the Purse Dinner here in Hall County with Women's Source later this month. So I'm looking forward to all of this. It is kind of like gala season. You know, I'm going to miss Scott Jennings. Scott Jennings is coming to Macon, and you know, I would love to see him, but I just can't get down there and back in one day. And there are a lot of things that are happening related to that, but we'll see. We'll see what's happening. It's kind of gala and dinner time. I want to also say to please keep in your prayers my friend Claire Bartlett. She had a situation a couple of weeks ago where they then discovered a brain tumor and had to have emergency surgery. And she's in rehab right now, kind of relearning some things because they had to take, it was a pretty large tumor that they had to take some stuff out. But she's going to be fine. I don't know ultimately what the treatment's going to be like for her, but just please pray for her and her family. My father-in-law went to the emergency room this morning, so I'll be going to the hospital after this. And so it's just that season that we're in, and there's a lot of things going on with people. That's why we don't need to be tribal. On Twitter today, on X today, a guy was asking, he said, serious question. You never know if it is when they say that. Do you ever doubt your faith? I'm doubting my faith right now. And he wanted to know what people thought about it. And I answered him, and I said, you know, what comforts me is that Jesus had doubts. Jesus said, take that cup away from me, if it be your will. He had doubts. And if he had doubts, we can have doubts. But the way you get over that is by having a small group of people or a group of people that you trust. And we need to be able to talk to each other. Because if we don't do that, things are not going to get better, and they're not going to stay better. We'll be back.
Clipper knows a thing or two about travel. Since 1957, when our founder traveled around the world on a Pan Am Clipper plane, we've served as a trusty co-pilot for commuters, travelers, and adventurers. Whether you're stopping for a quick fill-up before hitting the road or grabbing your favorite snacks and drinks on the way out of town, you'll never fly solo when you stop at a Clipper. We're the ultimate travel companion for wherever the road takes you. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, #NeverFlySolo.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduce stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Coming up on week 4 of Friday Game Night on AM 550, Buford hosts Roswell. On FM 102.9, Chestatee hosts East Forsyth. And on 94.5 FM The Lake, East Hall hosts North Hall. It all starts at 6 with the Prep Tailgate Show, presented by Conditioned Air Systems on your home of Friday Game Night. WDUN Gainesville, WDUN FM Clarksville, Gainesville. Always here, always local.
It's 10:30.
Fox News, I'm CJ Papa. The U.S. military eliminates what President Trump said was a boat filled with drugs heading to the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth earlier on Fox and Friends.
You want to try to traffic drugs? It's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate.
The Secretary adds it won't stop with just this strike. A Fox News exclusive, DHS teams up with Louisiana.
They are using this unused section of the prison to detain and deport some of the worst illegal migrants. Now, Angola is the largest maximum security prison in the country. It was once named the bloodiest prison in the South for its harsh conditions in the 1960s.
Fox's Brooke Taylor outside the prison in Angola, Louisiana. 52 detainees will be housed at that facility. America's listening to Fox News.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hardy Chevrolet Newsroom, I'm Steve Winslow, and charges are pending from a fatal wreck Tuesday afternoon out of White County. WDUN's Logan Landers with the update.
Georgia State Patrol says a trooper responded with multiple agencies from White County and City of Cleveland to a 3-car wreck along US 129 by Albert Reed Road at around 1 p.m. to find the car driven by Julia Robinson of Gainesville reportedly left the southbound lanes and crossed into the path of the car driven by Melania Zavala of Cleveland, striking the car head-on. The car driven by Marilyn Fry of Cleveland was following Zavala's car and was also involved in the wreck. All 3 drivers were taken from the scene by White County's EMS for treatment for injuries, but the GSP release says a passenger in Robinson's car, 51-year-old Brian Wallace of Claremont, was pronounced dead at the scene.
Gainesville Board of Education adopting a spending resolution Tuesday during its work session for September. It allows for 1/12 of the previous fiscal year's budget as maximum for spending. School districts required by law to adopt a budget next fiscal year by June 30th, but if the school district is unable to do so, a spending resolution must be approved by the board to continue operations. Maximum resolution for September will be roughly $11 million, while the board is set to adopt its fiscal year 2026 budget September 15th. More news online at Access WDUN. Now here's your Access WDUN weather forecast.
Hello, North Georgia. Wednesday, here we come. We're already halfway there. Partly to mostly cloudy skies. A stray shower or storm can't be ruled out. Highs this afternoon in the lower 80s. I'd have umbrellas just in case. From the Access WDUN Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Holly Strano.
In Suwanee and in Talmo, currently 72 degrees, and in Gainesville, 71. From North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
I'm Frank Norton with the Norton Agency. Success is intertwined with life on Lake Lanier. We grew up on the lake and understand its unique real estate dynamics. We've sold more shoreline than any other real estate firm. We're Lake Lanier natives, specialists, and above all, advocates for the needs of our clients. Norton, now more than ever. Call us at 770-532-0022 or look for us on the web at gonorton.com. Our family serving North Georgia for 4 generations.
Hi, I'm Becky Martin, Knox's mom and president of the Knox Martin Foundation for Brain Cancer Research. What if you could give someone a shot at a longer life? Join us the weekend of September 12th for KMF's Fall Fest, a weekend of play plus purpose, where we have a golf tournament, a dove hunt, a mahjong tournament, and an actual singer-songwriter concert. Every event, every ticket funds the next breakthrough in brain cancer research. Sign up now at knoxmartinfoundation.org or call 770-861-8420.
It's the Martha Zoller Show, presented by Gainesville Mechanical. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
What is the defining issue that will make the biggest difference in American life in the near term?
I mean, the number one issue is whether we are going to be grateful or envious. And that really is the sole problem. Are we going to be grateful for the great gift that we have in America and what we've been given and what the freedom and the prosperity and the private property and the equality before the law? Or are we going to be so envious of one another that we decide to basically destroy this whole thing? And you can see the meltdown happening. I mean, really. And I think you were talking before about that pendulum politics. I use the same sort of metaphor all the time. The fact that our politics is swinging so wildly right now that every sin of the other side justifies that sin on my side, but a little more so. that spells doom. I mean, that really is a death spiral. At some point, there's going to have to be a group of people, right, left, and center. And I don't really care where you are politically as much as I care where you are in terms of your soul. What are you going to do to make the country stronger? Are you going to weave better social fabric? Are you going to defend the fundamental principles of the civilization? Are you going to take risks and innovate and live with the downside of risks if you fail without blaming the system? If you do all those things, America will thrive. If you don't do those things and you decide instead that the system is to blame, you're going to wreck the country. And that we are the last best hope of humanity. So if we go, it's going to get real bad.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and that's Ben Shapiro that's been doing a little bit of a media tour talking about that, but I think he lays it out really well. As a country, as a state, as a community, are we going to be grateful for the opportunities that we have? Or are we going to be envious? Bill Crane's joining me right now, and we love talking about Georgia politics. But, you know, Bill, I've been talking about this a lot. We got to stop the tribalism. We've got to stop the things that we do that separate us. There's a lot more things. You got a governor of Illinois that says yesterday that, 55 people were shot and 7 people were killed. But, you have crime in cities all the time. And then tries to turn and say Trump's the problem. When, I just don't understand why everybody's not opposed to having higher crime in cities. There are things that we should agree on that the polling says that we agree on these things. But the leadership is not reflecting it. Is that because of money, or what do you think?
Well, on the Democratic side of the aisle and a lot of their core constituencies, there is a belief that getting tough on crime is code for arresting more people of color and more people of low income means and circumstance. No, getting tough on crime means cracking down on offenders and arresting people who break the law, particularly property crimes and crimes of personal violence. Are they disproportionately minority? Probably. Does the data show over the course of the last 40 to 50 years that more people of color are arrested than they are a percentage of the population? Yes, but that's not the same thing. Now, I've never been a minority, so I cannot speak to the frustrations of being pulled over by a police officer for driving while black, or some of the things that are real and do happen. But that's not crime, and those, generally speaking, don't, other than people being frustrated or embarrassed, that doesn't result in an arrest. That doesn't result in unlawful use of force by police officers. But these splinters, I call them, that do exist, a lot of our leadership on both sides of the aisles choose, instead of pulling that splinter out and letting it heal, to hammer it in as if there's some benefit to having us divided, because that means you'll be a little more loyal to me or more loyal to the other candidate. And I, like you, am a very big believer and live that an attitude of gratitude gets you a long way, and treating people with civility and respect does a whole lot for communication. And unfortunately, not all of our leaders agree with that.
I mean, and granted, videos you see are anecdotal, okay? But what I'm seeing is a whole lot of people of color that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and they're not necessarily being Trump supporters. What they're saying is, my city is not safe. My kids can't walk. Siege.
There are areas of Atlanta that the worst, most violent crime are in areas where people are most economically challenged, highest concentration of homeless populations, and they are in need. I mean, children getting shot, not robbed, but in errant gunfire, and those areas need assistance. Now, we are coming up on the 30-day cutoff for the President's authority of home rule in D.C. I don't know if he's planning outreach to Congress to extend that. I do think there are additional options that don't involve activating National Guard.
Well, I have a little news on that, Bill, because I had the former head of the Capitol Police on a little earlier in the program, and there was a meeting between Mayor Bowser and the police union and some folks from the White House this morning, and she's asked them to stay on. So I think, and I don't know if it means every single resource they're using up until now, but she is cooperating, and she's asked them to stay on, and I think that's good.
Well, and I think there is, again, a distinction between collaboration and cooperation between the Capitol Police Force, which has been there for decades, and activating National Guard and FBI agents to do local city street policing. But as we talked about last week, there is a shortfall and a shortage of police officers in most urban areas, which is contributing to
and that's exactly
their lower salaries and desire not to stay in the profession. People retiring, people not joining. It used to be a very solid career path for former military. You're seeing less of that.
Look, right here in Hall County, on a regular basis, we cooperate with the FBI, with ICE, with other federal agencies because they have certain expertise that we don't have. This idea that asking the feds for help is some unusual thing for cities and counties to do is just, I bet you in DeKalb County where you live, they do interaction through DeKalb police with certain parts of federal government because they have resources that local police departments don't have.
They do and they don't. There's issues. I live in DeKalb County, and there are 13 municipalities here, and some of them collaborate and work well with their police departments in DeKalb County, as well as state agencies, federal, and some do not. But that path always exists. And again, it's back to leadership. If you have a chief or a sheriff or a DA that wants to combine resources and do things like multi-jurisdictional drug task forces, which have been very successful in Georgia, and which Chris Carr has expanded as Attorney General, those work. I'm just suggesting that I don't think the long-term solution is having governors of one state send National Guard troops to another state when those National Guard troops are part-time people leaving behind a family and a job to go do that work. I don't think that's a long-term solution. I think that you push them in, show the force, you tamp crime down, and then you pull them back out. And then again, the local, state, and federal agencies already on the ground can and do collaborate better when they have the right leadership and direction.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I think it's got to be more than 30 days in most cases because, you know how hard it is to change habits.
We're stuck with the law.
Yeah,
we're stuck with
absolutely.
I'm not disagreeing. We're stuck with the structure. And again, the home rule thing in D.C. is not young. It's an old piece of legislation, and so is the Posse Comitatus Act. So if you want to change that policy and essentially have a national police strike force, which is kind of what I think Donald Trump would like to see for crime suppression, you've got to create that with legislation. You can't do all that.
No, I think that could happen. I think that one of the other things you got to do, and you even saw Gavin Newsom acknowledge that Trump is right because he had a press conference the end of last week talking about enhanced measures. I mean, he was twisting himself all up to not make it sound
like a pretzel, but at least he can read a poll.
Yeah, he can read a poll that people want to be safe. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'll tell you a funny story. We had these couple of exchange students over the years, and they all want to do road trips, okay, and because they've seen American movies, right? And so this young girl from Denmark, 3 of her friends came over at the end of her stay here, and they drove cross country, and they went to Los Angeles, and they had to turn in their car, and then they were going on a bus because, they don't think anything about riding buses. And it was 2 miles to get to the bus station. So they're Europeans. They walk. It's 2 miles.
Yeah.
So the area they were walking through was like Watts. Okay. And so they're walking along with their little suitcases at 1:00 in the morning after they've turned in their rental car, and an ambulance goes by, passes them, stops, backs up, opens the door, and goes, because these are like 3 young girls carrying suitcases, and he's like, these girls do not fit here, right? And he goes, what are y'all doing? And they tell him, and they said, get in. And they drove them to where they were going, and they said, don't ever do that again, or else I'll be picking you up to take you to the hospital. And it was so funny because, they're Europeans. They think nothing about walking 2 miles. I mean, if you're going to walk 2 miles to a bus station, that's normal. So anyway, I thought that was funny. And it's a story we use in our Rotary Club when we're acclimating the new students that come, because, there are places you can't go.
Things are a little different here. Yeah.
Little different. It's a little different here. Anyway, thank you so much. I want one more question, though. Okay, so Brian Kemp endorsed Derek Dooley. Not a big surprise. We don't know who Trump's going to endorse. I know Dooley's people are meeting with the White House people. I've heard he's not going to do anything for a while because he doesn't need to. But I think it's interesting because is this going to be Trump versus Kemp again, or do you think Trump could get behind Derek Dooley?
I think you're right that in the near term he's going to sit on the fence, but I think in the end, the bigger crowd and the need to hang on to Congress and to keep the base happy, he's more likely to go with one of the 2 MAGA established candidates. And of those 2, I think Mike Collins has the better shot. And if he goes there, then yeah, you have both in the Senate and the governor's race, the president and the governor choosing different sides. Now, they could be, it happens, civil and pleasant about that and just root for their respective candidates. But with those two, I'm not sure that's the way it plays out.
Absolutely. Bill Crane, thanks for being with me today.
Take care.
Thank you. We'll take a break. Lots more to come.
It's almost fall, y'all, and a great time to think about leaf peeping. Hi, it's Anita from Travel with Anita and Friends, and I have several places to share, both near and far, for a colorful fall this year. Join me Saturday at 1 on WDUN. Always here, always local.
What if I'm survived by a spouse with dementia or in a nursing home? Will they be protected? This is Kevin Tharp, elder law and estate planning attorney, and I've been helping people in your situation for over 35 years. And I can help you protect your loved ones when the time comes. But you need to make the first call. Visit my website at kevintharpwithane.com and learn how to get help planning for the future of your loved ones. That's kevintharpwithane.com.
Fall is planting time in North Georgia. This is Julie from Full Bloom Nursery, and now is the perfect time to plant pansies, perennials, shrubs, and trees. Planting in the fall gives your new plants time to become established without the stress of heat and dry weather. We've got over 4 acres of plants for you to choose from, so come see us for all your fall projects. Our knowledgeable staff will help you pick out the right plant for the right spot. Be sure to like us on Facebook and visit us on the web at fullbloomnursery.com.
It's Mike Robertson of Oakwood Tire and More. As our name suggests, we can handle all your tire needs, but some have asked what we mean when we say and more. At Oakwood Tire, we're more than just tires. We also handle general repair. We handle alignments, brakes, AC service, suspension work. Speaking of suspension work, if you're looking to upgrade your ride, we can put tires, wheels, lift kit, anything like that on there. See us at www.oakwoodtire.com. Stop by at 3120 Atlanta Highway, where we're more than just tires.
2,400 customers without power in South Carolina.
Newberry, Michigan expected to be without power for 24 hours.
Over 25,000 people without power in Cleveland, Ohio.
These are real headlines from just the last few days. Power outages are happening more often and they're getting worse. If you don't have a backup generator, it's time to get one. But gas generators, they're loud, smelly, and produce dangerous carbon monoxide. The Grid Doctor 3300 solar generator from My Patriot Supply is different. It's whisper quiet, requires no fuel, and it's safe to use indoors. Best of all, My Patriot Supply is offering an incredible deal for listeners of this station. When you go to mypatriotsupply.com and order a Grid Doctor 3300, they'll include a free expansion battery that doubles your backup power at no additional cost. Go to mypatriotsupply.com now and get prepared. That's mypatriotsupply.com.
Always here, always local.
From the Access WDUN Hart Chevrolet newsroom, one person is dead, 3 drivers hurt, one facing pending charges from a fatal wreck in White County Tuesday. Details at Access WDUN and coming up on North Georgia's News Talk.
Use the Access WDUN Talk and Text line, presented by M&R Rental at 770-535-2911, and be part of the conversation. From the Northeast Georgia Health System studio in downtown Gainesville, it's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It is the Martha Zoller Show, and it's always great to talk to Bill Crane, and he is in remission with his cancer, so we're so thankful for that. Now, I love Harry Enton as a pollster, and he normally, kind of sticks it in the face of CNN with how popular ideas that President Trump is doing is. But one thing we got to be careful of, especially with the meeting between China and Russia and India, I think India's playing both sides against the middle, so we'll see how that plays out. There has been a renewed concern about tariffs, even though the prices have not started going up yet. But here's what he said about the new polling on tariffs.
And I will note, it was not just the base, it was the overall American public, and they have turned against tariffs the same way college football pundits have turned against Arch Manning after his performance in Columbus on Saturday. Look at this, new tariffs on imported goods. You go back to November of 2024, look, the popular position was favor They favored new tariffs on imported goods, 52%, 48% opposed. You go to this side of the ledger, look at that, the opposition up like a rocket. We're talking about 60% opposing new tariffs compared to just 40% who favored. So it was majority favor back when Trump was reelected in November of 2024. Now it's a clear 3 in 5 Americans oppose it. The Americans have gotten a taste of the tariffs and they spit it right out.
So is the taste paying more? I mean, because that's how economists have always described this, as actually a tax on consumers.
Yes, it's exactly right. Why is the opposition up like a rocket? Well, it all comes down to money out of the pocketbook, right? Impact of tariffs on prices. Look at this in the short term. 77% of Americans now agree they raise prices in the short term. Look at this itty bitty number at the bottom. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. When you can count it on your own hand, you know it's a small percentage. Just 4% of Americans believe that in the short term, tariffs decrease prices. Long term, look, this has long been the Donald Trump argument, right? That even if they're short term pain, in the long term will pay off. Not according to Americans. Impact of tariffs on prices, even over the long term, look at that. 50% say increase. Just 25%, just half the level, say decrease. And while 25% in this particular case is better than 4%, 25% is way less than 50% of Americans who say that, in fact, prices will increase over the long term because of tariffs.
So it's interesting because we haven't really seen the price increases, but I've been hearing from people that they're starting to see it on the goods they have coming in. And we need to expect a big increase in coffee prices. Interestingly enough, Logan, I don't know if you know this. Coffee is the number 2 commodity behind oil in the world. So it's like people care more about it and trade more on it than anything except oil.
That, in a way, it doesn't surprise me because, I mean, it's everywhere. You know, we have the K-Cups here at our studio. There's a coffee shop right next door to us here in the square.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised, but also just tells you how much people need their caffeine.
Yeah, don't take my coffee away and don't charge me more for it. You know, I mean, I think that's one of the issues up there. So I think you're going to see some prices go up on coffee. We're not seeing increased prices in a lot of places. In fact, prices have gone down, but the perception, and I think it's because of the drumbeat of prices are going to go up, that people think prices have gone up. Now, oil prices have bounced around, but gas prices are around where they were in 2020. They're around where they were in 2020. So, I'm not the biggest tariff fan in the world, but I'm willing to let this play out. Let's go to the phones now and talk to Susan in Gainesville. Hey, Susan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Martha. I just wanted to reiterate that tariffs, even if they bring our products higher, if they make them higher, it's still a choice of a tax, not a tax that is imposed that we cannot dodge. There's always a substitute for something, or if it's that important to you, pay the extra price and you're paying a tax. I really don't think it's a tax. I think it's power that the United States needs to use to keep our citizens, nobody else better.
Well, and you know what? Up until we passed the income tax law, which, by the way, was never supposed to go over 3%, okay? But when we passed the income tax law in 1913, that's how the U.S. government raised money, period, was through tariffs. And so they've been used in the past. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of tariffs, but you're absolutely right. A tariff like a sales tax, you can avoid if you want to. You can decide to spend the money or not. Thank you so much, Susan, for your call today. Appreciate it. Thank you. So it is something that I think a lot of people need to look into a little more closely. But look, just like the way people felt about the economy was the reason why Donald Trump won in 2024, even though the Democrats kept saying all these statistics that it didn't back up. The feeling about the economy is the most important thing. This is why it matters. And if we go down the same road, and I mean conservatives, of trying to put a bunch of numbers up to prove to people what they're feeling about the economy is not real, we're going to have problems too in 2026. I was in New York this weekend, and I can tell you the hotel was about what I paid the last time. Actually, a little less than the last time, because the last time I went to New York, they were at the height of the migrants being in half of the hotels, and so the rooms were expensive because the supply was down, supply and demand. But it was still expensive. It's more expensive than I would pay for a hotel room in any other city in the world. I paid a third in London what I paid in New York City this past weekend. Okay, so it's a very expensive city. The food was really expensive. Yes, the nice restaurants were really not as expensive as the cheap ones. And what I mean by that is you can always buy a slice of pizza on the street in New York or in a little corner bodega. And it used to be like $1, $2, $3. My daughter and I going into a show because we didn't think we had enough time. It turned out we had enough time because the show was at 7:30, not at 7. But we didn't think we had enough time, and so we went into this little bodega, and we got one piece of pizza each and a salad and 2 drinks, and it was $52. I think that's ridiculous, okay? We paid it because we had to, but, I tell you what, I'd eat a hot dog on the street, but those are $10 now. They used to be $2. They're $10. I bought a pretzel. A pretzel, one of those nice soft pretzels, $10. I got a pretzel and a Coke Zero as a snack when I was sitting around Times Square, $15. That guy got no tip, okay? $15 for a Coke and a pretzel. I'm usually a really, really good tipper, but I had a tip already, but then, because I figured it'd be like $10, it was $15. And so that's no tip. You get no tip. It's crazy. So there are places where you're spending more money. There are places where you're spending less money. But I agree with Susan that I'm willing to see the tariffs kind of wait out and see what happens with them, because we haven't used this strategy in so long. We've just kind of said, oh, tariffs are bad, but we haven't really done tariffs. And we've had tariffs being done to us. So I'm willing to wait it out and see what happens. Lots more to come right here on WDUN. It's the Martha Zoller Show. I'll be back tomorrow. We're always here, always local.